Russia, a country in Eastern Europe sitting at 17 million square kilometers and 1/8 of Earth's inhabited land, which even today not only makes it the largest country in Eastern Europe and North Asia, but the largest country in the world. And it is here where the Soviet martial art of Sambo.
Now, usually at a time like this, I would start talking about the martial art behind the character subject of the episode, but seeing as I've already covered Combat Sambo last season, I have two choices. Either skip the introduction to Combat Sambo, or pad the episode length with stock footage. Unlike Bass and Tina Armstrong, there's no way I can spin this into separate histories based on gender, so the answer is clear. If you want to see the history of Combat Sambo, please refer to episode 7, Bayman. That being said, let's start this episode proper. Dead or Alive 2, needless to say, was bigger, better, and far more beautiful than its predecessor, running on Sega's then state-of-the-art Naomi GD arcade hardware, which saw a big boost in graphics and sound. And with the new sequel and new technology, there also came new characters. In our last episode, we covered Elena, who represented the beauty and elegance the latest roster additions had to offer. But while Dead or Alive 2 is a beautiful game, some fighters can show how brutal a fight can be, with or without danger zones. But rather than create a new character from scratch using a new fighting style, Team Ninja opted to replace one among the original cast. The victim was Bailey. Rather than the younger, stern mercenary assassin, the new Combat Sambo practitioner was an older, jaded Italian ex-soldier who fell in love, only to have the love of his life taken away from him. In her last breath, she uttered that the man she loves is the strongest in the world. With a newfound purpose, he will live up to his deceased lover's expectations and test his limits on his battlefield once more. Without further ado, this is the 12th episode of Dead or Alive Lore Explained, featuring the strongest wildcard in the world, Leon.
ローランの愛する男、世界一強い男。
俺は戦士。俺の後ろに立つんじゃねえ。俺はプロだ。
Get ready, fight!
アリベデッチ。
While it's never explicitly stated where Team Ninja may have drawn inspiration for Leon's design and personality traits, one source that can be speculated existed 5 years before Dead or Alive 2 in the form of an international action film. The movie was directed by Luc Besson, and the title, unironically, was Leon the Professional. Making its debut in theaters across France on September 14, 1994, the title of the character Leon, portrayed by Jean Reno, is a cleaner, the film's slang term for a hitman, who reluctantly takes in a young girl to become a hitman herself after her family was killed by Norman Stansfield, a corrupt DEA agent portrayed by a young Gary Oldman.
Bring me everyone. Bring me everyone.
Everyone!
The young girl in question is Matilda, who would be portrayed by a debuting actress who would make her claim to fame in the Star Wars prequel trilogy and subsequently the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Natalie Portman. As the film progresses, we learn about Leon's past. At age 18, he fell in love with a girl born into a wealthy family. Unfortunately, as Leon was from a poor family, the girl's father did not consent to their marriage, and he killed his daughter in anger. As due recompense, Leon fulfills his revenge for his lover's death by killing her bigoted father and has become a cleaner ever since that day. In stark contrast, Leon of the Dead or Alive series was a mercenary, not a contract killer. His beloved, Lauren, was but a humble thief that he met on the Silk Road trade route, more on that later. And the circumstances behind his lover's death are never explained, but the comparisons end there. Being the third oldest playable character in the Dead or Alive series up to this point, at the age of 42, Leon is tall and imposingly muscular, as expected from a longtime mercenary trained in Combat Sambo. Having slick back gray hair, wrinkles, and dark blue eyes, Leon's most iconic costume is his unbuttoned desert camouflage shirt, with gray pants tucked into his shoes, and a turban to match. On his left leg, he wears a red bandana around his knee. But even more intriguing is the design of one of Leon's alternate costumes, a red trench coat with a black shirt, beige pants, leather gloves, and leather boots. Later installations would include rounded sunglasses, which made him resemble Jean Reno's Leon a bit more closely. Not to mention, they're both Italian. Coincidence? I think not. Leon is well known for having a mean streak in the heat of battle, and much like another hothead we know, he isn't in a Dead or Alive tournament to make friends. He won't hesitate to trash talk. He won't hesitate to kill you. he won't hesitate to slap you in the next Sunday, and he sure as hell won't hesitate to throw you around like a rag doll in your own home. Leon is the type of guy who doesn't take guff from anybody, but most importantly,
天狗なんぞ知らん。
the only thing he gives a damn about is his lover, and fulfilling his lover's wish. Or at least, that's mostly true. He appears to have some history with Bayman and Zack, but the circumstances behind that history remain unclear, at least based on official sources, to this very day. While Leon shares the same fighting style as Bayman, the differences between the two would gradually increase over time. While Bayman has an array of expert holds to instill fear into predictable opponents, Leon is a simpler, more raw powerhouse with simple strings, simple holds, decent guard breaks, and devastating throws and combo throws that put the full savagery of Leon on display. Leon's Dervish throw is the longest combo throw chain in the series, requiring 4 separate input timings, whereas most require 2 or 3. But perhaps his most iconic throw is his signature torpedo throw. In Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate, it would go down in history as one of the most broken moves in Dead or Alive history, especially in stages like these. With a more brutal, straightforward take on Command Sambo, a take no prisoners attitude, a motivation to fight for a dead lover, and an unclear history with Bayman and Zack that shows limitless potential for where his story could go, it goes without saying that Leon may very well be the strongest wild card in the world. The Silk Road is a Eurasian market trade route that dates way back to 114 BC. The term was originally coined in China for its then lucrative trade in silk, but soon expanded into regions such as East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Africa, Europe, and more relevant to this episode, the Middle East, starting in approximately the 1800s. Given Lauren's reputation as a thief, it's most likely she wanted to run away with Leon, but succumbed to her untimely fate in the middle of the desert. Before dying in Leon's arms, Lauren uttered the words that would set a competitive spark in him henceforth.
ローランの愛する男、世界一強い男。
Coming to terms with Lauren's passing, Leon set out to prove himself to her the only way he knew how, to compete in the second Dead or Alive tournament. In his simple quest to become the strongest, Leon would encounter a familiar face, at least according to him, in the form of Zack. Confused, Zack insists that he doesn't know Leon, tossing him a mirror to imply that he's ugly, much like Tina did to him when they faced off earlier in the tournament. Leon eliminates Zack and faces the martial arts master Genfu, warning him that he won't be holding back despite his age. In turn, Genfu warned Leon that he shouldn't take him lightly. Unfortunately for Leon, he would lose this fight, and then be eliminated by Ryu Hayabusa as expected. But perhaps this is a blessing in disguise, as the second Dead or Alive tournament was a foreboding ill omen. For Leon heard about the Tengu Bunkatsubo being unleashed in the world. Unconcerned, he traveled back to the Sahara, awaiting the next challenge. In the third Dead or Alive tournament, his objective remains the same. What we do know is that there was a heated battle between him and Jan Lee in the tournament, where he briefly acknowledged his skill for making it as far in the brackets. Unfortunately, neither he nor Jan Lee would make it far enough to matter, as Ayane, Hayate, and even Zack were the better fighters this time. Even more disheartening is that this would be the last game Leon would ever receive any unique cutscenes for future appearances in the Dead or Alive series, reducing him to a non-canon bonus character, which sadly brings us to the next topic. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Despite having a passionate vocal minority of fans who legitimately love the character, Leon is unfortunately not very popular. This may be the reason the story writers were not as driven to somehow fit him into the canon storyline from Dead or Alive 4 onward, despite being playable. But to play devil's advocate, I like to argue that there is a way, especially after the events that unfolded in Dead or Alive 6, and I'm further inclined to believe that Team Ninja knew this, as they were planning to add him as DLC somewhere down the line, had the game continued to meet their expectations in sales. Unfortunately, well, you know. Leon's desire to compete in Dead or Alive stems from his lover's last words before passing. But now that Mist has found a way to bring the dead back to life, what if Leon found out about this breakthrough? How would this change Leon's perspective? My theory on how the story would have played out is that Bayman would use this to his advantage to gain Leon's help in defeating the client who cheated him, Victor Donovan, in exchange for a chance to restore Lauren back to life. and this would lead to long-time mysteries finally being revealed. What was Leon's history with Bayman? Why didn't Leon familiarly speak to Zack in their life too? Was there more to learn than being a mere thief Leon met in the Silk Road exchange? An informative Dortex shading dealings under Donovan's watch? Perhaps she knew too much and was hunted down? It would be a plausible theory, that's for certain. Any story expansion would be enough to keep him relevant, because let's face it, he's over the top and fun to play in the right hands. Whether he'll continue to be non-canon fodder in future installments, or evolve narratively past the guy who wants to be strong because his dead girlfriend said so, don't be the unlucky hand that wipes your ass when a wildcard Leon enters the fray.
The face of death.